You guys are all part of the St. Louis Stammtisch, and for those of you who out there may not know, does anybody want to tell me what exactly is a Stammtisch? What do you do? And what is this group?
Well, the Stammtisch is a place where the locals get together. In every German restaurant or bar, you have a Stammtisch, and it's reserved for the locals, and the locals get together and they solve the world's problems by drinking beer, discussing various issues, and we have done our best to replicate that in St. Louis. We get together twice a month at a restaurant, tavern, we have some beer, we solve the world's problems by speaking German and practicing our German.
Best definition I've seen of Stammtisch is the tribal table. So that would probably be this is our tribe, or this is
all the wise men and women from the community come together and figure out what needs figuring out. So whenever I was in college, we had our own Stammtisch. We didn't go to a local bar because some of the students weren't old enough yet. So we would go to a coffee shop instead. And we would go there every Friday night like clockwork. We'd go in there at the same time, and we had our own little table in the back that the coffee shop knew we were coming. Sometimes it would be just 3 or 4 of us, and sometimes it would be up to 10 or 15 of us. And it just kind of varied on the week. And we would just discuss whatever it is that came up. And it was probably one of the most influential ways of teaching me German while I was learning in college is going to Stammtisch on a regular basis and just speaking German. And my first couple of times I went out there, I didn't speak all that much German, and I would just sit and listen. And we had 2 of the German professors were there. We had one of the philosophy professors, was a pretty regular one there. And then several of the upperclassmen and students and stuff, and it was just a fantastic experience. So that's why I'm sitting down with you guys, is to kind of get the other end of it. You don't have to be at the university level. You can go and find one of these Stammtisch in your local town and get an opportunity to speak German with other people. And even if you don't speak, just sit around and listen, and you'll absorb a lot more than you think. How long has this Stammtisch been going, and who started it? How did it come about?
Our little Stammtisch traces itself to at least 1999, when it was kind of formally organized. And as far as we know, it's the longest continuously operational Stammtisch in St. Louis. And there's a number of other Stammtisches that get together. So we can trace ourselves back to 1999. It originally met at Schlafly, the tap room. And then over the years it has moved from various locations.
I think it was originally founded by Tom and Schlafly, and they were the owners of Schlafly's Brauerei.
I've been here like about a year.
2 years.
2 years, about 2 years. And it wasn't me that first found out about Stammtisch. It was my husband. He kind of prods me to expand my German. And it kind of helps me in many ways. And he said, well, did you know that there's a Stammtisch? And I said, well. And so he went, and then he says, well, you should come along. So he really introduced me to Stammtisch. And I knew I was going to be visiting my cousins in Germany. And I thought, I need to brush up on my German. And vocabulary is what I was really interested in, because there's words that I, as a child that I learned German. That actually German was my first language before I knew any English, because my mother was a war bride. She came over to the U.S. She was the only child in conditions after World War II in Frankfurt, where she was born, and my Oma and Opa, grandparents, were there. It was really bad. And so she said, well, we need to bring them over here because they're going to starve to death, or, was bombed out in Frankfurt. And so living conditions were very bad. So they came here, and my parents started working. And then my older brother and I were born, and who took care of us? Oma and Opa. My dad learned German at NC State when he was getting his degree, and of course my mom, the whole house spoke German when I was little. And my brother went to first grade. He did very poorly because he hardly knew any English. And so they realized they better, teach us some English in North Carolina.
That might come in handy.
Yeah, so it's just, when you learn it that young, it never leaves you. It is always there. Every other summer when I was a kid, up until I was 14, we would visit my grandparents, my Oma and Opa in Germany, in the little village. So we'd have the 3 full months of running around in the town. It only had one Hauptstraße, one main street, and we just run around with our cousins and have a ball, And it took 2 weeks from when we went to Germany to start thinking in German.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we came back for school, then it took another 2 weeks to start thinking in English. So there was a 2-week lag there of actually, forming the sentences in German in your brain.
That was actually going to be one of my questions is, how you all learned German, of whether you were all native speakers or if you learned somewhere along the way. And so you grew up with it and needed to brush up on it a little bit. So what's your stories?
Well, I sort of grew up with the German language. My dad was a native of Germany. My mother was born in Hermann, Missouri, and her first language was German. And she never learned English until she went to school. So.
And Hermann, Missouri is the one that is the little Germany of Missouri, right?
That's
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid and spent some time on the farm there, everybody spoke German, all the neighbors, all the farmers, because German was also their native language. They learned German before they went to school. So when they got together and visited each other, it was all German. Except, of course, when they went to town and bought groceries and stuff like that. But among each other, they all spoke German. And as a kid, when my parents had a company, many of them were German people, and they also spoke German. So I developed the ability to understand anything and everything, things I shouldn't understand. And, but I never tried to speak it myself, and I first got interested in speaking it when I took German at Washington U.
I was born in Zurich, Switzerland, which is a German-speaking part of Switzerland. They have their own unique dialect of German, and I came to the States when I was 8 years old and then promptly lost my German. So over the years, college, and I've attended the Saturday morning German school here in St. Louis with Carl and some other folks, and that was how I got acquainted with the Stammtisch, because like you, I wanted a place to get together to hear some German, and especially native speakers, and then to be able to practice it. The first few times I came to the Stammtisch, I was basically sitting there just listening because I was too intimidated to actually use the little German that I had at that time. So, but we had an interesting variety of people. That one of our members, he lived in Germany for a year or two, doing Schwarzarbeit. So he was working in a kitchen under the, getting paid under the table, and he learned German there, and he enjoyed the culture. No family relationships. Then we have some folks that just enjoy things German, love things that we always try to have a native speaker. Sometimes that's hard to come by because we are all basically good old Midwestern Americans, and it is good, Americans, and it is good to hear someone that was born and raised in Germany that speaks a good quality German and that can correct us, because that's part of it. If you're a native speaker, you have the authorizations to correct the Stammtisch members.
Yeah, that was always helpful to get the little tweaks of, well, you should have used this word, or it's actually this, and just kind of
Lock the field.
yeah. Yeah, you figure it out really quickly to get that, the Sprachgefühl. So you get the feeling for the language, and you hear it often enough, you know that this is now the way that you need to say that. I'm pretty sure that's the way I learned all of the genitive case. I don't recall learning any of it in any particular class. I just remember, sitting around in conversations and hearing S's being thrown at the end of things, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. My problem then became whenever I got to teaching, I had problems explaining the grammar to people because they're like, well, why is it this way? I was like, I don't know, that's the way that they said it. So that's why now my YouTube channel focuses so heavily on the grammar, is because I needed someone to explain, like, well, why does it do that? Well, I don't know. So now I know, and I figured those things out. But like my students, a lot of the issues are nowadays that the kids don't know what the English grammar is, and so I have to teach both of them. And English is a Germanic language, and you can tell that if you start diving into the grammar a lot, you can tell that a lot of the things that we say, we don't realize why we're saying them, but it's German is the reason we're saying it that way. So what's your story?
My grandfather came over from Germany in 1911, and so I'm third generation. Never spoke German. He spoke German with my great-grandfather, and I remember that. I just started taking it in high school. And it ended up, I was the only student in the fourth year German class. And then I went on to college. I was afraid that I'd wake up one morning, do horribly, and be stuck in German 1, taking college German. I didn't want to do that. So I finagled getting into scientific German and struggled through that. So then after that I forgot years and years and years of doing it. What was it, about 2007, I guess, is when I started back up with going to the German school here in St. Louis, Saturday morning school, and picking back up on it. Really, probably, I guess, for the first year that I was with you guys, it was at least the first year, probably 2 years or longer. It was just me sitting there.
Looking good.
Yeah, looking good. and dapper. Don't forget dapper. But looking good and just trying to listen to what Carl said and listen to Jim's Swiss lilt in his voice, and then definitely Regina and Pete, listening to them talk. Like I said, I picked up a lot. I feel a lot more confident. Between that and the school, I feel a lot more confident. So.
You brought up the school for the Saturday schools here in St. Louis. I've been thinking about sending my daughter to one of their summer programs. I think it's the same school that we're talking about. Do you know anything about what their setup is, or anything about their programs that you could speak to?
It's a well-run school.
Yeah, I think
Over the years, it has become more and more professional.
Yeah.
They've gone out of their way to select teachers that have a command of the language. It's one thing to be a native speaker. It's another thing to be able to teach it. Mm-hmm. And so they've done a real good job of finding people who are qualified teachers who then really speak an excellent German. So I think we've had real good experiences at the Saturday morning German school.
We've all been native speakers, but I think the only exception is maybe at the A1 level. You might have some non-native speakers there, but they're all very excellent in German.
Even at the A1 level, we had fun. It helped encourage what I had already known. I could tell right away that, okay, A1 is a little bit below me. Then I went to A2, and I was like, okay, I'm probably okay here. I ended up spending 2 or 3 years at A2, and then I ended up spending another probably 4 years at B1.
The difference between where A2 is and where C1 is, that gap in between for the Bs, is just a huge jump of how much knowledge is in there. So I can understand spending 4 years at the B1 level, especially if you're only going on a Saturday for 1 day a week to go learn. That's a lot to overtake. Is A1 you could probably do in 3 months on a Saturdays. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing A2, it's going to take you about twice as long, and it doubles almost every time that you go on to another letter.
Carl's in C1, and I like I said, I got kind of, it was like, okay, do you want to go back to B1 or do you want to go to C1? And I thought, well, I guess I'll try C1. I think he'd probably tell you that I was kind of probably struggling in it. I mean, it was, I could understand enough of what was going on, but I mean, I was struggling.
The more a challenge, the more you learn.
Yeah, the more, I agree. But I mean, I was struggling in it more so than a lot of the people that were in there.
They do. One of the things that they are really good about with the kids is they get them to a level where they can test. The Goethe Institute provides tests, so they really are very focused on providing youngsters a good, solid base so that they can take the tests and test out if they should go on to college. That, I think, is an important part of it.
If you want to go to a German university, for instance, you have to go pass one of those tests from the Goethe Institute. I had to take it. I'm doing an online master's at the moment. And so I had to pass that test because the university I'm attending is German. So even though I'm still in the States, they made me take the test. And I haven't taken a test since I was in college. So I was like, oh. So, that was a wake-up call for, how to prepare for one of those tests. And yeah, if they're pointing them in that direction, that's definitely something that would be of interest for me at least. So where do you guys go for your Stammtisch? You guys go to Schlafly still, or?
Actually, COVID has presented a real challenge to us. We continue to meet. We've been actually, I think, pretty flexible about continuing to get together. So we've done the Zoom meetings.
When it was warmer, we were going to Carl's quite a bit.
We've gone to people's backyards, their patios.
Yeah.
We here with this winter, we've gone to a variety of places.
In our garage when their monsoon happened, and it just poured.
So, I mean, part of the whole concept of Stammtisch is that we do get together on a regular basis so we can practice our German. We want to maintain that, and that provides that cohesion, I think, as a group. It has been a challenge. We have met in the past at Schlafly's, Square One Brewery,
St. Louis Gasthaus,
the Gasthaus, the Stellar Hog, which is a barbecue place in South City. Here, most recently, we've been meeting at Bandanas. We're in search of a central location that could accommodate us, because what we want is a place that has good food, inexpensive refreshment,
kind of quiet,
and quiet, because
you're
typically we have 8, maybe 12, sometimes a few more people, depending on the occasion. The idea is that we do meet twice a month, first and third Sundays. Typically, our webmaster, Walt, puts that on our website, Stammtisch St. Louis. So,
and occasionally we have Romeo days during the week.
We'll do lunches together. We'll just, some of our members will open up their homes for various functions. We have a Christmas party. So it's
Gribbets.
You have friendships that develop. You have people that enjoy each other's company. And the common denominator is the German. Because we come from a variety of backgrounds and socioeconomic, religious, political. So, but the German language and culture holds us together.
That was one of the things that I appreciated about our group that got together at the university, is the variety of people who we would have come into it, because we would always invite the community to come out as well. And so we would have some native speakers from the area who would just come in and stop by Stammtisch one week and just say hi. We had an art teacher who would come in every once in a while and speak German. We had one of the French teachers who would come on as a regular basis and speak German with us. But then you always get like the different political viewpoints, and you get a lot of different viewpoints on various things. So like while I was there, they were building a new art building over at Eastern Illinois University, and it's ugly. There's no way around it. It's a terrible looking building. So, and it cost them several $1 million to build. And so we got all of those political things coming in from different places. So, the art teacher loved it. It thought it was great. And the philosophy teacher's like, well, why do we need this? And so it was a good combination of different people from different viewpoints coming together and speaking German.
I do think one of the nice things about our group is we are very respectful of one another, because we do have just a broad range of views on a host of topics. And it's fun to, engage on any number of things, whether it's arts or politics or travel. It's fun to get Carl's view on whatever, or Sylvia's perspective as an artist on something, or as a law enforcement
Yes.
officer, your perspective, Walt, on something.
I kind of sum up our group is one word: Gemütlichkeit. I mean, we all want to be together. That the desire to be together, to drink beer and have some decent food, and that brings a bond together. We're kind of tied together in the German language, and it keeps you wanting to come back. You know, you've made these friendships, and you want to, further your friendship. It's been a lot of fun.
There's another Stammtisch in St. Louis. It sounds like it's very corrective when you talk, and very insistent that you do talk. But there are other ones that, if you want that type of structure, that you are going to get, when you speak, they will tell you when you're wrong, which is, I can't say it isn't bad, it does help.
Our group would always correct us a little bit. If it was an egregious error, then you would say, hey, that's not the right word for that, or, you use the wrong tense, and that kind of messes up what you're trying to say. And if the communication is hindered by what you're saying, then we would correct you. But it was always from a point of view of, we're all here to improve, and it was never a, hey, how dare you did this wrong, but more of a helpful community that way. And I think that's what a lot of the Stammtisch that I've been to in either the St. Louis area or at the university level or even in Germany, they're all there just to get together and have that community together. So I just think it's fantastic.
That's the beauty about the Stammtisch.
That's right.
Yeah,
Don't have that. We are pretty wide open.
Yeah.
If you are interested in the German language, German culture, you are welcome.
And having Jim buy you a beer.
I will buy the first beer. We buy the first beer.
Nice. You guys had mentioned that you do you did the Zoom meetings at least once or twice, and I noticed that a lot of people are having trouble going out and socializing and getting that extra practice that they would need for German. It's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this video, is that I know a lot of the Stammtisch have gone online, and they now accept people from other places that can then join into their Zoom. So I just think that was something that I should highlight, since you had mentioned it earlier, is that you don't necessarily have to be in that town or in that city. So if you're in a city that doesn't necessarily have a Stammtisch already, or doesn't have one established, one, you could establish your own, which would be a great way to do that. But the other way is that, if I wanted to join Philadelphia's Stammtisch right now, they're all remote, so I can go to hang out with them. And one of the things that the St. Louis area has is that there is a huge population of German-speaking people here. So if you, for some reason, didn't like this group or that group or whatever group, you could, form your own. You could have another one somewhere else and join somebody else. There's just so much that you can draw from the community around here that it's just something that I think everybody should try if they have the opportunity to. Going out beyond your comfort zone too. I wouldn't necessarily hang out with you guys on a normal basis. We're not, in the same social groups.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know, right? But, we're not all teachers in the same building, and we wouldn't have any interaction otherwise. And to go out and seek those extra interactions with other people broadens even more of your German language skills, because if I don't agree with your politics, I now need to learn how to argue in German. So it's those opportunities at Stammtisch that you wouldn't normally get. I'm encouraging anyone who is watching this video to go out and check out a Stammtisch and search in your area. There's a website called meetup.com, and you can check out various ones. That there's one in the St. Louis area that has 800 people on there. And anybody in their group can start up their own Stammtisch and say, I'm having one at this location. Anybody who wants to is welcome to join. And then you guys have your website that's out there. And if you just go to meetup.com, search for Stammtisch, you'll find one in your local area. And I found that this is actually not just a uniquely American thing either. You find these all over the world. There's even some in Germany that are specific for German learners, which I found fascinating. I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought it was the regulars table, and but then I found out later that they actually do that for German learners too.
As president, and I've learned, I go to the Zoom German American Culture Society, and they have a whole list of Vereins that are there, and I've been learning a lot about what goes on in St. Louis, of all the different German clubs that are there, and what you can, if you really want to get into it, you can do so much, in the German American Cultural Society here in St. Louis. And that would be a website to check too, because, you know, before COVID happened, there were dances, there's, you know, all sorts of things happening. They are planning to have MyFest in Donau Park, which is right in this area.
4 miles south of here.
Yeah, 4 miles south of here. And it's going to be MyFest on Saturday and Sunday. You can check out the website there, and German dancing and German beer, and they make the food, German food. It's just, you know, and they have got the My Pole, right? And they've got that.
Maibau.
Yeah, Maibau, and it's wonderful. I think that's really what got us, my husband, into it is long before Stammtisch, out by us, Donau Park, they would have Oktoberfest, the MyFest, the Sommerfest, all these things, and it's just like, you know, 4 miles from our house. And so that's how we really got into the German culture. And my mother, who's German, whenever she'd visit, we bring her there, and she heard all these Germans speaking around her, and she was excited to speak German again. And it was a wonderful experience, Donau Park, and it was real close to us. So that's really the German culture coming out to the, you know, area and engaging people. I tell people at my Lutheran church, oh, there's Oktoberfest or MyFest, come on out, and people from our church would come out and you know, enjoy, you know, the dances and the music, the and Spitzbaum band, and yeah.
Do you guys have any questions for me?
I'm kind of curious about German at the high school level.
Yes.
I keep on hearing that schools are dropping German as a foreign language. Is that true?
It is true.
Okay.
Like my high school that I attended no longer has German. The school that I student taught at no longer has German. So I know of at least those two.
So why is that?
There's two reasons. One, Spanish is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. We have, you know, it's more in your face that you need it. German, it doesn't shout to you like, hey, you need this. And so people kind of push it off to the side. It's like, if I compare it to art and music and all of those type of classes where those are starting to get cut. Those kind of cuts are happening all over the country. And so it's one of those things where the government continues to tell us, you have to have this whenever you graduate high school. Then you have to have this when you graduate high school. And then you have to have this when you graduate high school. But foreign language is never on that list. And so if you take a language at all, it's going to be Spanish. And you're only going to take the 2 years because that's what the university wants. And then you're going to drop out of Spanish at high school too.
So something that I think ought to be done in schools, and I know it's kind of done to like for sports and that, but you know, to get the people to take German, additional art classes, additional this, additional that, is, you know, most parents don't get off of work till 5 o'clock. Pay teachers some extra money, some extra geld, so that it's like, okay, yes, we just had our German class with this guy, and now we can have an intensive German hour with this guy, or we didn't have German with this guy in here because we're working for our science degree on other stuff and we want to mainly hit the sciences, but we like German enough that, yes, we'll take it as an after hours. I would have taken I would have probably been more interested in high school. I liked learning and I liked being able to talk to the teachers, and if the geography and teacher and the history teacher would have said, hey, we got this extra hour after hours things, I would have been there.
In college, I did a program that they had at a local school where after school, there were 4th grade students, I think it was. We would go over once a week and teach them German, Spanish, and French. I would have my own little group, and we would meet for 6 weeks in a row and meet with these same kids and teach them, you know, the basics of German and get them introduced to it and kind of play some games with them and stuff like that. And even at the lower levels, if we could do that kind of thing and keep it at the forefront and keep it in the front of their minds, we might be able to save languages, not just German, but even the Spanish classes are dying.
At the university level, German is still a pretty popular language.
They still have relatively popular university courses, but I have heard from some of my professor friends that, you know, their programs are starting to kind of dwindle down too, and you know, they spend a lot of time on recruitment for their courses and saying, you know, You want to go into business? Well, have you known that there are 500 companies here in the U.S. that also are German companies, and they will send you to Germany to train? Or you need to be able to understand how this machinery works in German. And so if they knew that these things might actually come in handy, we might have a better chance of getting the students to take it at the high school level and then go on to college and take it more. Our high school has dual credit classes for 3 and 4. So they earn 8 credit hours for German 3 and then another 8 credit hours for German 4 to the local community college. And then they can transfer that anywhere in Illinois. So by the time they graduate high school, at our high school anyway, they already have their first year worth of German out of the way, and they can just go straight into your sophomore level German. That, at least for our program, is pushing a lot of students to the local universities and getting into their programs and definitely helping out their numbers.
My daughter, she's 26 now, but she was in 2 years of German. Minute you were in that door, there was no English. It was immersive. There was no English allowed in that classroom. And so it was only German. You could only speak German in that classroom. And she learned the most that year because you were forced to speak German. You couldn't say any other word but, German. And then they had, you could have a German exchange student. They have that program. And either a year or 2 weeks, and we did a 2-week one. But right up the street, the German teacher, he had Sarah, who came, and she spent a year there. And she just walked down the hill, and my daughter and her, the same age, and they go out and do things, and it was really immersive, and the exchange student thing really, really brought it home.
I started my own version of that. So I did that exact program whenever I was in high school. So it's what's called it's called GAP. It's a German American Partnership Program. So the Germans would come over here in the fall, and we would host them for 3 weeks, and then that next summer we would go and visit them in their same house, same kids, and we would do a 1-to-1 exchange like that. So I did that in high school, and when I got to Edwardsville and started teaching, I was like, you guys don't have an exchange program here? It's like, a school this size, you surely would have something. And the answer was no. I went to the administration and said, okay, look, here's what I want to do. I want to start this exchange program. Here's all of the information you need to know. And I set all of that up. It still took the administration another 3 years of me arguing with them, saying, look, I want this to happen. This needs to happen. We need to have this happen. 3 years straight. And finally, I would say this for 3 years. We need this program to happen. And it got approved the next year to go and do this exchange program. So
you have
I now have one. We have a host family school over in the Black Forest, right around the Stuttgart area, a little south of there. Beautiful area, right along a river and a valley. It's absolutely fantastic. So we now have that program set up. And I have noticed a lot of students who are coming into my classes now, it's like, I heard my brother or my cousin, my whoever was on the last trip. I want to host a kid. I want to go on the next trip. That was the big movement for my high school whenever I was growing up. That's what was driving our program.
Do you watch any German TV over here?
Not really, no. I watch the Tagesschau on, I have a kitchen display that while I'm washing dishes or something, I'll do that. But.
I pay like $12 a month. It might be $13, $14 with your, since they're in euros, for YOUTV.de. And I pick out stuff that I want to watch and download it and watch it. So I'm watching a whole bunch of documentaries. I mean, it's more documentaries. I can watch the 1960s Batman if I want to. Hogan's Heroes in German. But I mean, I'm picking out stuff. Okay, I actually feel that listening to a documentary, because it's not just you and me talking. You and me talking. If you're putting that on video, if I don't know what the conversation is starting in, I'm lost right away. But a documentary, it's like, oh, here's a picture of a skull that's 5,000 years old. Okay, I picked up 5,000 years old. He's holding up a skull. And so I know, so the documentary is always talking over a picture that it describes. And that way I'm picking up the German that goes along with it. I like watching the YOUTV, and I think it's worthwhile to pay for.
What type of access is that $12 a month give you?
You go in and you pick out whatever video, you can't watch a video live stream.
Right, you have to record it.
You record it, but then you can click on, like I can go in there right now, I got like 30 things that I still haven't watched it. Click on it, and I can stream that video. It saves it for me for up to a year. I can stream that video, or I can download it. I got a whole bunch sitting on my Kindle tablet that I've downloaded. It's on my Kindle tablet, and later tonight when you all are gone, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to click on a video, and it's going to start out. What's one of the ones I got? I think the history of Russia in German. So I mean, I'm going to watch the history of Russia in German.
You may want to check out like RTL.de, that one.
RTL, I get that on this.
ARD and ZDF.
See, I got
those
all those.
three. They're all free online right now, so you can go to their website right now, and
Google.
you can watch live TV if you want, or you can watch recorded stuff.
The 40 channels that this gives you stuff like Disney Channel in Germany, and there's Quark is another one about some of the stuff.
Quark has actually got a YouTube channel that is fantastic for German learning.
So
Yeah, Quark. Quark.
Quark.
And if you've got Netflix, you can change Netflix into German for most of the shows.
Yes.
So you can switch the audio and have English subtitles if you want, or you can.
That's a big plus for Netflix.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah, Netflix does that.
Netflix.
There's a Chrome extension if you're using Google Chrome while you're watching Netflix. That it will put subtitles in both languages on there
really?
if you want.
Wow.
I can't remember the name of it. It's something basically like 2 subtitles or something stupid like that. It's ridiculously easy to remember, but I'll email it to you. I don't remember. But it will put both languages on there at the same time, which is super helpful for a lot of people. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and talking about the Stammtisch, and I just really appreciate the conversation.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your time.
Zum Wohl.